Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Cowboy Bebop Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, this episode is about the past kind of rearing its ugly head in more ways than one, as Faye runs into Whitney. In fact, Whitney actually came to find Faye because she needs to go to Santo, and she wants Faye's help, and it's like, right, I'm with I'm with some cowboys, so it's like, right, like, they're gonna be coming after your head because there's already a lot of money on your head, but it's like, right, but they won't know if you don't tell them, so they concocted this whole story of like, hey, Faye and her mom, and it's just like, she ended up helping Spike, and it's like, oh, like, she's like, yeah, I could tell you were dealing with some pain, because he's still dealing with the aftermath of that AI situation, the Londes situation last episode, so he still had like 8 days of migraines and stuff, but because of the thing that she did, she was able to cure his like issues, and it's like, oh, it's good, and she's playing the role of the mother, and it's like, it's sad how good at lying she is, because even Faye's just like in astonishment of just like how quick on the fly she is, but she's a con woman, she's a grifter, like this comes second nature to her, which is kind of a sad thing in its own right, but the fact is that she's able to come up with these lies and stories about like Faye. It's like, oh, Faye, she was sweet, but also a terror when she was younger, and obviously bonding with Jet over like, oh, parenting and stuff like that. It's like, oh, wait till the hormones kick in and stuff like that. But she's like, yeah, I got this special recipe when it comes to peppers. It's it was Faye's favorite, and it's like, yeah, luckily, like, Jet was suspicious of, like, the body language and stuff like that, but Spike was like, who cares, it doesn't matter, like, because if he's like, yeah, who are we to really know the ins and outs of a mother-daughter relationship? He's like, I don't, but it's like, the fact is that he ends up being like, oh, you're from that planet, so am I, what high school did you go to? It's like, oh, she was homeschooled. And it's like, yeah, it's like, I thought you were from Europa. It's like, well, yeah, I moved there because of my ex-wife, but no, I'm originally from so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, got caught in their lies. But it's like, Jet, and I think it speaks volumes that Jet was starting to get suspicious about it, but Spike wasn't. He was just kind of like, but also, like, because I love when it does eventually come out. Because I also love that, like, there's a whole thing about, like, because it's like, oh, she's like, my ex-husband, my current husband, wait, Faye's dad? That's where you're trying to be on the lam from? She's like, no, that was husbands ago, but, the way he treated, and she's like, yeah, he gave me creeper eyes, and it's like, oh, like, there's comms on this place and stuff like that, let's go, and then Jet's looking at him, he was like, come on. He's like, really? And he's like, no, we're talking a mom here. And he was like, you're a sick man, Spike Spiegel. He was like, no, like, mothers basically talk about how nurturing and awesome they are. And even, it's like, yeah, mommies make the pain go away. And Jet's like, I bet they do. And Spike's looking, I'm like, you're twisted enough, Spike, for that to be a thing, you perverted freak. That it's like, oh, you have a thing for moms, don't you? Because the moment he found out about, when he found out the truth about Whitney, he was like, honestly, I might even like her more now. But yeah, it's like Faye got caught in her lie, and she admits the truth about, like, right, I was in cryo, and the aftermath of that, I have amnesia, and she has my identikit, so this might be the only means of finding out the truth of who I am. And Jet's pissed at her for lying, which I'm like, oh, like, Spike, are you going to defend her or something, Mr. hiding who he really is? But he was like, and he just leans in, he's like, I have my suspicions, and then Jet's like, Spike, he's like, and I just love that you lean into it, but he has to, because he's the jokester that he is, but I love it because it's like, right, she got caught in a lie, your partner's been lying you to the entire time. Like, once again, like, he knows how Jet feels about the syndicate, that's why he hasn't ever told Jet the truth, but it's like, yeah, it's like, Faye might have been lying recently, like in this most recent lie, but you've been lying to her for 3 years. So that's why I felt like, but maybe that's also why, I think that's why Spike never looked too much at it, because he's like, yeah, I'm kind of living a lie, so, but technically a lie, but not technically a lie, because, hey, I reinvented myself as Spike Spiegel. This isn't a lie for Spike Spiegel, because I'm not fearless anymore. I'm Spike. So, but that's also why he wasn't too, like, yeah, he was he jabbed at her, being like, yeah, I always had my suspicions that she was a liar. But it's like, yeah, like, he was, maybe it's just because it hit a little too close to home, but it's like, no, like, why he was, like, a lot more forgiving towards her than him, because he's always like, yeah, I know what it's like to kind of live a lie, so. But it turns out that a well-known arms dealer, the Iron Mink, don't forget the iron in that, wants, Whitney, and it turns out they're married, and she's like, yeah, well, you're gonna have to get through these 3 if you want to get to me, and they're like, what? Fuck no, what are you talking about? And it's like, we don't want to get in the middle of, like, your business. For a second, I was like, the actor who plays the Mink, he seems slightly familiar. It's Tyson Ritter from All American Rejects, but like more recently, the thing I know him from is Preacher, where he played Jesus / Humperdew. So I was like, hey! I was like wondering why he looks. The actress who plays Whitney also seems familiar too. I think that might have been her name at the end. I think Christina, or it was either Christine or Christina at the end. I didn't quite catch the last name. That might have been her name. I don't know. Like, she does seem like I might have seen her in stuff before, but I'm not quite sure. But now they're in a position where it's like, cool, the Mink is going to come after us. We're kind of screwed, so we got to find a way out of this situation. So Jet was like, all right, let's at least get her locked up. I guess it's like, right, if she's locked up, the Mink has a less reason to come after us. Plus, you lied to us. But it's like, hey, like, if Faye wants her identity kit back, I'm going to have to take her there. And it's like, well, fine. And then Spike's like, oh, look at you. I'm liking this more. And then it's like, me and Spike will deal with him. And it's like, oh, I'm liking this less. And I love that whole thing with them on the bus. It's so good. He's like, oh, this is faster. And she's like, oh, he must really love you. Because, like, it turns out she had a tracker in her ring, which I love that whole thing. It's like, she's like, no, like, there's trust in our relationship. There's no way Minky would do that. And Spike's like, says to Scorpion. Which I'm wondering is that, I know, like, I'm getting too caught up in it, but I'm like, I guess it's just like, yeah, you're always like ready to sting people, but I'm like, is he supposed to be the frog in this metaphor? I guess. Well, Minky's supposed to be the frog in it. But I love that, like, he has the tracking ring on, and then Spike realizes what she's talking about, being like, oh, he must really love you, and he starts twirling his fingers. He's like, he did good, huh? I just always feel like we really love each other, or something like that. I'm like, I love how Spike just leaned into it. I love it. It's so it's super adorable. They would be the definition of quite the odd couple. I mean, they kind of already are. Their work partner, married anyway, so to an extent, so. But I love that whole bit while, like, Jet's trying to see Kimmy's, because it's like she's got the lead role, and he's like, right, that's fair, so go ahead. He's like, why am I stuck in the middle of everyone else's family problems? I'm an orphan. Like, why am I getting caught? I was like, oh, that's super sad you say that. It's like, but yeah, I'm like, I don't have family issues. I'm not dragging anyone else in. I'm an orphan, and yet I've got to deal with everyone else's family problems. So he's there, which Chalmers is actually a really cool dude. He's like, hey, I got the flowers for you, and like him and Jet are kind of joking a little bit, and Alyssa's like, wait, what, those flowers? They were Jet's? He's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, he's trying. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get some pictures. And even asking Alyssa, like, hey, send me some of those pictures. And she's like, yeah. She's like, I really appreciate you being here. And it's like, oh, she got those dance moves for you. So, like, while she's dancing, like Jet's doing. And I love the entire time this is happening. I don't know if it was happening the entire time, because I didn't notice it till partway through that you're looking out the window, and Spike's fighting literally everyone that the Mix sent. And I just love that. Like, oh, like, yeah, he's just caught up in everything, and he's just not noticing all that's happening out there. So he was able to see the entire performance. So that was pretty dope. That was really sweet to be able to be there for Kimmy, because he is trying, and I think Elisa's kind of realizing that now. And the fact is that, like I said, I think him and Chalmers are in a better place, because now he also like doesn't. His biggest grudge against Chalmers before was because he thought Chalmers was a bad guy. But it's like, no, you're actually a decent dude. You're actually you're a good guy. You're a good cop. So I do trust you with my family now. Like before, I was just like, oh, you're the bastard, stole everything from me. It's like, in actuality, it was my partner. So there's that element to it, but And I love that after Spike did, he's like, hey, it looks like you took care of everybody. He's like, yeah. How was Kimmy? Oh, she was good. She was great. Yeah. I love Spike. We just pretend like it was nothing. At the same time, there was actually some interesting moments between Faye and Whitney. Because it's like, right, do you know the difference between a fantasy and reality? Like, there's like, it's all about perception. So a fantasy is as real as you want it to be, because she was like, in all honesty, being your mom was actually something I actually enjoyed. I didn't want to leave you the way I did, but I, accumulated some debts and I had to kind of run. So, but she's like, honestly, I kind of loved it, because she was actually saying that, because like the way they got the car, which I love that so much. And it's just like, Mom, and it's like, oh yeah, like if she did those exercises I told her, and she's just like, my garage is as tight as a drum, and it's just like, wait, did you just touch my mom's boob? Get your manager and call you out for assault. He's like, no, I didn't touch her boob and stuff like that. I'm like, I love like the little back and forth they had. It was so good. But it's like, yeah, they play off each other so well. I guess like to an extent, because what I brought it up before, like Faye did become who she became because of Whitney. It's like, right, Whitney kind of made you see the harsh reality of the world, that people are kind of out for themselves, and that's why she has the trust issues. Because even Jet was like, you could have told us the truth, we would have helped you with the whole like thing, but it's like she felt the need to lie, because it's like, right, it's not like kind of forcing people to give her what she wants. She kind of learned it from her pseudo mom, and so that rubbed off on her, and it kind of created like this persona that she has now. And it's like, yeah, it's harder to like really fully trust people because of her mom. But it is, yeah, like Whitney had, because what hurts even more is because it's not like you just tricked me for a little bit and you stole everything. It's like, no, it seems like they were mother and daughter for a while. And even Whitney was like, I didn't want it all to end, you know? And even at the end, when they do get to the garage, it's like, yeah, all the identikits in the back. But she's like, right, are you sure you want to know? Because you were on ice for a while and your parents never came. No one ever came for you. So that means either your parents are dead or they abandoned you. And it's like, come on, that's my ship. It's a one-seater, but we can make it work. Like, we can, you saw what we did. We had so much fun back there. We can make this work. But for Faye, it's like, right, I've got to know. Like, she'll always wonder who she is. Like, despite everything, it's like, I need to know who I am. Granted, the only thing in the box was a VHS, and she's like, what is this? And you're like, jeez, man. It's one of those things of like, I know that there are people who've been alive to like witness changes and stuff like that, but it is interesting to have been in a position that I am old enough to remember certain changes in home media. Like, for example, going from a VHS to DVDs to Blu-rays. I think that's so fascinating because like there are people who are alive right now that think about it who've never known what a VHS is, who might not even know like, oh, DVDs, they're that super antiquated thing. Like DVDs are antiquated to people. Like, because I've never really used Blu-rays because I don't really buy much on like Blu-ray like that. So, because even more often than not, like for a while, DVDs were still being made too. So, it's just so fascinating, especially later on when Jet actually plays it on a VHS player. You're like, man, that's freaking wild. And the fact is that Faye's like, I don't know what the hell is this? It's such an antiquated medium, but I guess it's like they wanted to keep something that wouldn't wither over time. I think I wonder, was there other stuff, or was that the only thing that was actually in the box? Did the other stuff, like, get left behind? Were they probably hoping that this would, like, did they know about the after effect of cryo? Like, they know it now, but maybe at that time, like, going in cryo, they probably didn't know about the after effect of, like, losing your memory, like, losing everything like Faye did. But then, like, the mink shows up, and he's like, despite everything, he's like, every time these lies come out your mouth, I wanna kiss you, but I also know I have to kill you. And it's like, Faye gets in the way because it's like, please don't kill her. The fact of the matter is, yes, she's a liar, she's a thief, she's a con woman, but at the end of the day, she is my mother. I'm her daughter. It's like, everything she does is to survive, so you can't blame her for that. So, like, please don't. But the mink is like, oh, now I'm going to have to kill both of you. And then she says the safe word, and you're like, what? And then he kills Dimitri. She's like, you didn't actually have to kill Dimitri. It's like, he heard the safe word. It's like, we could have come up with a new one. And then Faye's like, wait, this was all some twisted role play? And they start going at it, like, making out hardcore. You're like, you people are disgusting. You're disgusting. This, all of it. Like, Spike just killed a whole bunch of your dudes, and it was all for your sick role play? You people are disgusting. And it's like, oh, and he's just like, oh, I don't need that. And she's like, oh. Just getting so excited, Faye's just like, oh my god, this is disgusting. And so Faye, and even then the mink gets like, oh, like, she's like, what about her? It's like, oh, we can bring her along. She's like, oh, you're gonna be such a great father. And Faye ends up taking off with the ship, and she's like, bye, Mom. It's like, that's my girl, which is, despite the crazy weird circumstances, it's still very sweet at the end. So I thought that was neat. But on the tape is a Jet kind of apologizes. He's like, right, sorry for being such a dick, but it's like, it's all good in the end. Plays the tape, and we see like a younger Faye, and she's, being like, hey, like, who are you? Like, who are you, alone? Do you have someone by your side? She's like, no matter what, like, I know you're going to be okay. Essentially, she's like, future me, like, I know everything's going to be okay, because because of knowing who she was at the time, and like, I know you're just going to be like a better version of me, like, so know like I'm here and that you're just a better version of me, and I know everything's going to work out and be okay. And she never gets to see her parents. She hears her mom's voice, but she doesn't get to see it. Even the fact is Faye played the piano and stuff like that. It doesn't give her much, but it gives her some insight into who she was. It's like, oh, that's who I was as a kid, like, you know. Hearing her mom's voice, knowing that maybe my mom is out there with answers of who I am, you know? So, past is always an interesting thing. And like I said, on the flip side, we have, you have, once again, just the interesting parallels to last episode to this episode, where the AI is trying to make Spike forget about Julia, making her saying like, oh, like, you're going to get me killed, like, we're both going to die. That Julia's on the flip side trying to make things work, and it's like, why didn't you tell me about Fearless being alive? And it's like, how long have you known? It's like, not long. Because she's like, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, you're not the type to get nostalgic and all of a sudden you're drinking Kudo. It's like, yeah, it pieced all together for me. So it's like, why did you lie? It's like, yeah, but like, Vicious, if you know, he already knows Spike's alive. If you run off of him, you'll be running for the rest of your life, always looking over your shoulder, waiting for Vicious's blade. And so for her, she still wants to do this, but it's like, yeah, this is better for everyone. It's like, yes, I want you away from Vicious, but not like this. Grin was over listening in, and he was like, right, go, like, Anna is right, as long as Vicious is alive. So Grin gave her the idea to like end this way, which Vicious is meeting with Santiago and Mao about the plan for what they have planned next. And I think it speaks volumes that he's cherishing the wine a little bit. Mao kind of drinks a good chunk of it. I was like, I've never had that taste. And Vicious just kind of knocks it back. Let's get to business. So he's got it planned out, like, yeah, we fake get me arrested. The only weapons are going to be the Kubons and my katana, and they'll be like, yeah, and I will take the elders' heads and stuff like that, and everything's going to work out. And Santiago picking up his blade, eating something, I'm like, is that a thing of testicles? Because the fact is you specifically reached for your blade for it, and just the way Vicious was looking, so I'm like, guess it is testicles, so... But Julia speaks with Mao behind the scenes of like, right, you actually thought he was the one that came up with all this, and she's like, nah, he's more like, he's always the shoot first, screw the consequences afterward type of person. So, but Julia's like, I'm offering you just to take his head, and it's like, yeah. And what are you going to give me in exchange? He's offering you 2%. I'm offering you the entire throne. And she's like, what are you getting at the end of it? Out of this syndicate, she gets her freedom back. So that way, as she exits and leaves, she can go with Spike. Yeah, like, because currently Fearless, the only person who knows that Fearless is alive is him, and his people. So if he dies, the rest of the syndicate doesn't know. So she could go off, and she now knows Spike's real name. And it's like, I just brought it up last episode. I figured Anna wouldn't tell him, but it'd be harder to track down. Even though you're looking for Spike Spiegel, it's still going to be hard to track him down across an entire system. Being a cowboy, he's always kind of on the move. He's never going to be 100% pinned down in one place. So that's going to be a thing. But like I said, I think the juxtaposition of just like Spike's journey last episode and now everything with Julia this episode planning Vicious's murder, which, I wonder will that work out? Oh, maybe not. But it'll definitely be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.